Let's talk about promises. We make them all the time, right? But what's the difference between a simple promise and one that a court could actually force you to keep? Today, we're going to figure out exactly where the law draws that line.
So picture this. You tell your friend, yeah, of course, I'll help you move on Saturday. But, Saturday rolls around and you bail. Your friend is furious. They have to scramble to hire expensive movers last minute. So can they actually take you to court and make you pay for it? It seems like a simple yes or no, but the legal answer is, well, it's fascinating.
To get to the bottom of this, we need what I like to call the legal master key. It's a concept called the intention test, and it's what judges use to unlock the difference between a simple broken promise and an actual legally broken contract.
At its heart, this test is looking for something called an intention to be bound. Basically, it's that shared, unspoken understanding between two people that, hey, this is serious, this is official. And here's the thing, judges can't read minds, right? So they have to look for outside clues to figure out what everyone was really thinking. And this is where it gets really interesting. The court basically has to put on a detective hat. They have to investigate the situation, hunting for clues to figure out if the promise was meant to be a real, binding deal. And they're mainly looking for two major clues to crack the case.
Okay, so clue number one. This one is a biggie. It's all about the relationship between the people making the promise. Was this a casual chat between friends or a formal deal between two companies? Because believe it or not, the law starts in two completely different places depending on the answer.
So, check this out. In a social or family setting, the court's default setting, its presumption, is that there was no intention to create a legal contract. It assumes it's all based on trust and goodwill. But flip that to a business setting, and the presumption is the total opposite. The court automatically assumes that yes, of course, this was intended to be legally binding. It's all about commerce, after all.
And that right there, that's a huge deal. It means if you want to sue a friend over a promise, the pressure is on you. You have to prove to the court that this one time, this specific promise was different, that you both really meant for it to be a serious, legally enforceable deal.
All right, so we've got the relationship down. That's our first clue. What's the second? Well, it's the agreement itself, how the promise was actually made. How formal was the whole thing?
Just think of it like a seriousness scale. Way down at the bottom, you've got a casual verbal promise, right? Yeah, I'll help you out. A step up from that, a clear text message or an email laying out the details. That's a little more serious. But at the very, very top, you've got a formal document, signed and witnessed. The more formal you get, the more likely a judge is going to see it as a serious contract. So the big takeaway here is that formality signals seriousness. Putting something down in writing, getting a signature, that's not just to help you remember the details. In the eyes of the law, it's like a giant flashing sign that says, hey, we are serious about this. It's powerful evidence that everyone knew the stakes were real. Okay, we've got our detective tools. We have our two big clues, the relationship and the formality of the agreement. Now, let's go back to our original mystery and finally crack the case of the moving day promise.
Let's run the evidence through our test. First, the relationship. It's between friends, so that's a social context. Boom. The court immediately assumes there was no intention to be legally bound. Second, the agreement. How was it made? Probably a casual chat, a quick text, totally informal. It signals absolutely no special seriousness.
And there it is. That's our answer. Can your friend successfully sue you for bailing on moving day? Almost certainly not. The promise fails both parts of the test. The law looks at the situation and says, sorry, that's a broken social promise, a friendship issue, not a broken contract. We're staying out of it.
So, we've solved the mystery. But why does this rule even exist? Why does it matter? Well, understanding this test actually has some really important takeaways for all of us in our everyday lives. For one, it acts as a kind of firewall, protecting our personal relationships from getting dragged into court over every little favor or missed plan. Can you imagine suing your family for being late to dinner? It also creates real certainty in the business world, where you need to know that a deal is a deal. But maybe the most important part is that it puts the responsibility on you to be clear. If you're making a serious agreement with a friend, like, say, loaning them a lot of money, and you need it to be legally binding, you have to make that clear. And what's the best way to do that? You guessed it, put it in writing. So now you know the secret test. Next time you make a deal, whether it's buying a coffee or signing a huge project at work, you'll know exactly what makes it stick. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Now that you know the test, how many legally binding contracts did you probably make just this week without even giving it a second thought? Makes you think, doesn't it?
Thanks for watching.